Greetings viewers, welcome to an informative YouTube video on the occupation of Shandong by Japan. We will explore historical significance of this occupation and events that transpired during this period. Let's dive right in. How did the Japanese occupation of Shandong affect the economic, military, and political aspects of China? Shandong became occupied by Japan. The region had strategic importance as an essential naval base during this time. However, it was during the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 that Japan was officially granted ownership of Shandong. The ownership was short-lived, however, because in 1922, at the Washington Naval Conference, Shandong was officially returned to China. Nevertheless, Japanese military presence remained strong there until 1945, where the People's Republic of China was formed. Ultimately, the shift of power in Shandong province to Japan during the First World War was primarily driven by alliances and militarism, which brought significant military, diplomatic, and economic impacts on both Japan and China. Let's hand it over to Alexander Gusko for part 2.
First argument. The first reason why Japan occupied Shandong, specifically the city of Qingdao, was because of its alliances. The Japanese, observer contended that Shandong was theirs by right of compensation for their exertions and sacrifices in recovering it from Germany. It is the strongest ground they could have taken. In the early 20th century, Japan had become a key ally of Britain. In 1914, Britain was at war with Germany during World War I. Qingdao was a German territory in Asia, and Britain wanted to weaken its enemy to win the war in the long run. Britain did not have any significant military operations in Asia to have an impact on the Germans, thus they called upon a potential ally, Japan. At the time, this alliance for Japan was an interest because it allowed them the opportunity to expand on prior territorial conquests of their wins against Russia in the Russo-Japanese War of 1904 to 1905, and the annexation of Korea in 1910. Japan formed this alliance and led to the 21 demands, which stated their conditions for forming the alliance. At the heart of the Japanese occupation of Shandong was the aftermath of the World War I and the Treaty of Versailles. Here, Moore's historical perspective sheds light on the Japanese goal. The Japanese contended Shandong was theirs by right of compensation for their exertions and sacrifices in recovering it from Germany. It is the strongest ground they could have taken. Thus, Japan used the peace conference to acquire Shandong. This led to two other important events, the Naval Conference and the May 4th movement.
Explanation. The Washington Naval Conference held in 1922 aimed to address various issues to prevent possible uprising tensions and conflicts among major naval powers. One key focus was a limitation of naval armament to avoid an arms race. The Naval Conference was also used to retake Shandong from the Japanese in order to prevent them from gaining further power. Additionally, it covers the status of colonies and territories to resolve disputes and prevent conflicts over territorial claims. A significant outcome was the signing of the Shandong Treaty, which returned control of Shandong province to China, previously under Japanese control. The nine-power treaty signed by several nations affirmed China's sovereignty and territorial integrity, ensuring respect for its borders. Lastly, a treaty was signed between China and Japan in 1922 to settle outstanding Shandong province, leading to the withdrawal of Japanese troops from Shandong and the full restoration of territories to China. This decision to give the Shandong territory to Japan caused another major event, the May 4th movement. The movement was strongly influenced by the dissatisfaction and anger felt by Chinese intellectuals, students, and the general people towards the outcome of the Treaty of Versailles. The movement aimed to build national independence, individual emancipation, and the rebuilding of Chinese society and culture. Second argument, cause and effect. Japan's interest in Shandong led to military conflicts between the two sides. One of the most significant conflicts was the Jinnan incident, also known as the May 4th movement, refers to a violent conflict that took place in Jinnan, Shandong province, and which occurred in 1928. The incident began as a dispute between Chiang Kai-shek's National Revolutionary Army (NRA) and Japanese soldiers and civilians, which escalated into an armed conflict between the NRA and Imperial Japanese Army. Japanese soldiers had been deployed on Shandong province to protect Japanese commercial interests, which were threatened by the advance of Chiang's northern expedition to reunite China under a Kuomintang government. Initially, the NRA managed to peacefully capture Jinnan after the Beiyang government-aligned army of Sun Chunfang withdrew from the area. However, a dispute between Chinese and Japanese individuals led to a conflict that caused thousands of casualties on the NRA side. The NRA forces fled the area towards Beijing, leaving Jinyang under Japanese occupation until March 1929. Explanation.
The Jinan incident was a violent military conflict initially caused by a dispute between Chiang Kai-shek's Revolutionary Army, Japanese soldiers, and civilians. Quickly escalated into a full-fledged armed confrontation. The incident resulted in significant casualties on both sides, with thousands of deaths during the clashes. The violence of the Jinan incident marks a turning point in Sino-Japanese relations, intensifying tensions between the two nations and shaping the dynamics of the power in the region. According to the historian perspective of Ryuji Hattori, occurrence of the Jinan incident, in Japanese the Sainan incident, led to the Tanaka cabinet responding by committing even further with the third Shandong deployment, bringing more troops into China and escalating the conflict. Third argument. Japan had interests in acquiring resources which only weakened China. During Japan's occupation of Shandong from 1937 to 1945, their main focus was exploiting the region's resources for military and economic gains. Shandong's abundant natural resources like coal, iron ore, gold, and minerals were sought after to fuel Japan's war machine and industry. The fertile land in Shandong, known for wheat, cotton, peanuts, and soybeans, was exploited to feed Japanese troops and support their war effort. The existing industrial infrastructure, especially in cities like Qingdao and Jinan, was utilized for military production and economic objectives. Shandong's strategic coastal location was crucial for Japan's territorial and maritime interests. In summary, the Japanese occupation aimed to exploit resources, establish military bases, and gain strategic advantages.
Explanation. Japan weakened China when occupying Shandong by exerting control over key resources and infrastructure in the region. The Japanese occupation allowed them to dominate Shandong and take possession of vital resources like railroads, which were crucial for transportation and economic activities. By controlling the Peiping, Hankow, Tientsin, Pukou, and Lenghai railroads, Japan limited China's ability to move troops and goods effectively, distributing internal stability and hindering economic development. Additionally, Japan's command of the sea and air superiority further weakened China's defenses and ability to resist effectively. The occupation of Shandong by Japan not only deprived China of essential resources and infrastructure, but also imposed a significant military and economic burden on the Chinese, contributing to the overall weakening of China during the period. In conclusion, the large amount of resources and business opportunities in Shandong attracted other countries. Shandong in this case had a lot of land, oil, lumber, and coal. All of these resources were of interest to Japan. Shandong also was an important naval base, had great production power, and was part of a weak China. Because of those reasons, Japan decided to invade Shandong and take control of all the benefits that came with it. The invasion of Shandong led to severe effects such as the New Culture Movement, the Washington Naval Conference, and the Jinyan incident. These are the sources. Thank you for listening.